Released in 2011, the iPhone 4S was very similar to its older brother, the iPhone 4, but brought in some new key features with a much improved camera and Siri. It originally released on iOS 5, which was an essential piece of software that brought both Icloud and iMessage. Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91Tech, and today we're going to be finally doing a video that I promised you all a very long time ago. I have here not one but two iPhone 4Ss running their original software versions, iOS 5. These are extremely rare, and it's very interesting to see how they perform even compared to iOS 6. You can see here I have this white one that's in pretty nice condition and running iOS 5.1, and then this black one which looks pretty destroyed on the front screen and runs iOS 5.1.1. Not exactly sure what happened to this black one, but both of these phones are fully functional, so I'm not too worried. Both phones were about $30 each. This is a pretty good deal considering the rarity, and while it's tough to put a price on them, if I were to sell them on eBay, I could probably get around $150 each if I could find the right buyer. Well, $150 for the good condition one, maybe a bit less for the black one. But with that all being said, let's just get into this and take a good look at what the 4S used to be. Again, the 4S was released in late 2011 and basically reused the iPhone 4 design. That said, they certainly weren't the same phone, with a much improved now dual-core A5 processor in the 4S, and Apple's first 8-megapixel camera that honestly still kind of holds up today. Seriously, look at these photos, they're actually not that bad. The design of the iPhone 4S is of course beautiful. It's the same as the iPhone 4, and it looks amazing. It has the glass front and back, and has the stainless steel band around the phone, and you might notice it looks very similar to my iPhone 10. That's actually why I got the silver iPhone 10. I thought it looked very close to the iPhone 4, and I just love the way that the phone looks. But in this video we are more focused on the software, so why don't we start there? And why not with the camera? It has the classic look and camera shutter when you take a picture. It's really nice, very pleasing to the eye. I enjoy this a lot, and while it isn't necessarily superior to the camera app we have now, I'd say it's definitely much more unique, with many other phones really starting to look similar to iOS in their UI. Actually, that's something I really want to hit on with this. iOS used to be much more unique than it is now. A lot of Android phones are starting to really look like iPhones when it comes to certain elements of their design. For example, the new camera app on the Samsung Galaxy phone looks just like the Apple camera app, and so on and so forth. Back in these older iOS days with iOS 5, iOS 6, etc., there was nothing else that looked even close to it. And that's something, unfortunately, Apple's kind of moved away from. But I'm not going to go too much into that, just kind of really like that about these older versions of software. Backing out of the camera, we can see the home screen, and immediately we're presented with Steve Jobs' skeuomorphic design. There's nothing like this anymore. As said, it's very unique, but unfortunately I don't think that makes up for a lot of the limitations you're going to find in 2018. iOS 5 actually looks a little bit different than iOS 6, and you can see a side-by-side comparison here. iOS 6 has a more darker look and feel to it, while iOS 5 seems to pop a little bit more. I don't really have a preference here in all honesty, but let me know which you prefer in the comments below. And of course, as soon as we compare it to iOS 11, everything looks completely different. Not only is the iPhone 10 way bigger than the 4S, everything looks significantly more modern and kind of flat. Alright, let's talk about it because you've probably noticed it by now. There is indeed a YouTube app on iOS 5 pre-installed, and it actually used to be hugely popular. Back in this time, Apple didn't do as much to separate themselves with Google, but the next year with iOS 6, they removed the app. So if you actually open it now, it sadly doesn't work. I believe they dropped support for it in 2013 or so. You can, however, download the latest compatible version from the App Store, which doesn't run the best but still works. Siri was introduced on iOS 5, and I mean, Siri is a big deal. For me, I barely ever use Siri, but a lot of people do. She's a bit slow on iOS 5, but she still does the job for the most part, and honestly, the experience is not that much different than with iOS 11. iOS 5 introduced Icloud, a feature that is kind of essential today and links all of your Apple devices to keep everything in one cohesive experience. It actually isn't that much different than what we have today when it comes to the basics, and it's safe to say this was a really good move on Apple's part. iMessage also was introduced on iOS 5, and this of course allows you to message with just your Apple account over Wi-Fi and link messages over various devices. As soon as I signed into this iPhone, I started getting text messages, which was kind of neat to see. It just works, and of course that was the end goal for pretty much everything Apple did back in the Steve Jobs era. Performance-wise, I mean, what can I say? It's fast. iPhones are always super fast on their original firmware, and this 4S is no exception. Apps open immediately without delay, and this thing just flies around the UI. It's really pleasing to use and is easily comparable to my iPhone 10 when it comes to basic tasks. Naturally, when you try to do anything a little bit more intensive that's internet-based or whatever, it actually kind of falls behind, and only 512 megabytes gigabytes of RAM is not doing it any favors. Still, it feels so much better than the iPhone 4S on iOS 9. It's unreal. I really need to do a video sometime on how badly Apple ruined the iPhone 4S because they just destroyed it with the iOS 9 update. It's kind of tough to think that this beast will slow to the pace of a snail if I ever update it. It is so fast right now. But overall, iOS 5 on the 4S feels great. What's quite unusual is that iOS 6 isn't actually much slower than iOS 5, and mostly iOS 6 and iOS 5 are exactly the same for performance. So living on the iPhone 4S on iOS 5 in 2018 is interesting. It's very fast, and for basics like calling, texting, listening to music, etc., it works perfectly well. Even web browsing is honestly not too bad. But when it comes to actually using it for what most people use it for, a smartphone, it really falls behind. App support just isn't there, and it's just missing so many features that we have today. You can't really live on this in 2018 unless you just need something to make calls with. And if that's the case, well, I mean, good luck finding a 4S on iOS 5. You're better off just getting a different phone. So exactly how rare is the iPhone 4S on iOS 5? If you wanted to find one, could you? Well, sure you could. eBay is full of old phones being sold constantly. If you look long and hard enough, you should be able to find one. Heck, I found two. But what if you already have an iPhone 4S that's just lying around collecting dust? Can you downgrade it? Well, the short answer is no. The long answer is that if you have SHSH blobs, then yes. But if you have no idea what I just said, then again the answer is no. Apple no longer signs iOS 5, and they haven't for years and years. But for some strange reason, they started letting people go back to iOS 6.1.3. I've done a full video on how to downgrade your device if you're interested, so link down below for that. All in all, iOS 5 on the iPhone 4S is a very neat experience, and it allows for some more insight into what Apple used to be. Like iOS 6, design takes a backseat to functionality and speed, and I love it for that. Well, I think that's it for this video. Essentially, iOS 5 on the iPhone 4S is very cool. Very fast, has some neat quirks and some cool features, and overall, I really enjoy using it. If you found this video interesting, make sure you leave a like and consider subscribing if you're, into old tech like this. Follow me on my social media, Instagram, Twitter, direct links down below. That would be cool of you. And with that all being said, thank you so much for watching. I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and I will see you all next time.